Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, my friends. We have some new footage and some new details about Rashid thanks to the San Diego Comic-Con that's happening right now. And I thought it'd be fun to just compile some of the info that we have now learned, put it in a video, and well, let's talk about it. So first off, you're looking at Rashid's intro. This was posted by Capcom. And yes, just in case you were somehow wondering, Rashid's got all the silly faces like you'd expect. So yes, in case you somehow missed it, he's a streamer, and he's streaming his fights and all that kind of stuff, and that does play out in the intro as well. He's got his streaming stick, part of his core equipment, I guess. You can see him pick it up right as we flash out of the character select screen. It's a near and dear object to him, I suppose. Simply put, Rashid is not beating the always online allegations because he's streaming everywhere he goes. Although thankfully, or hopefully anyways, he's a lot more stable than the usual always online streamers. We don't need Rashid turning into the next Ice Poseidon after all. Also, Rashid doesn't care too much about your viewing experience. As you can see here on the left, he's just going absolutely nuts, just twirling around. And for him, hey, that's normal, right? But for you, the viewer at home, you might fall out of your chair and throw up after seeing that. High levels of motion would definitely not play well with the bitrate, so we gotta assume maybe perhaps Rashid's a novice streamer. So one last thing before we move on from this specific bit of footage. We do get to see Rashid's playstyle parameters here. So he's listed as tricky, his effective range is mid-range, and he's listed as a hard character to use. Which, if he's anything like Street Fighter V Rashid, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but still, there it is listed out. Now here's a fun bit of footage posted by Takayuki Nakayama, the director of Street Fighter VI, and it's Rashid's timeout animation. And yes, you saw that correctly. So after Rashid loses by timeout, Azam shows up here. Azam is Rashid's butler slash manservant, I guess. You can see him in the Street Fighter V cinematic story mode, and he literally just drags Rashid off. Honestly, I gotta say, that's kind of going the extra mile that they made a whole character model for Azam. If he's only gonna show up in a timeout instance, that's really cool. Maybe eventually they'll put him as an NPC in World Tour mode. That could be a thing. But I like Azam a lot. I don't know why, maybe just because he's a big guy. But just to see him here makes me very, very happy. So our next little bit of Rashid footage is all courtesy of one Jared FGC. They went above and beyond capturing some footage over at the San Diego Comic-Con as Rashid is playable on site. And it's just really good stuff. So let's look at Rashid's normals. This is definitely perhaps one of his weaker aspects of the character because we've seen so much strong things, but his normals look pretty average. Although there's a couple interesting things to point out. Like this guy here is stand heavy kick, and it's basically the reverse of how a stand heavy kick works in Street Fighter V, as he starts forward working backwards. His crouching lights look very serviceable. Crouch light kick seems to have a decent amount of range to it. Crouch medium punch seems to have a very good angle to be specifically a solid anti-air button, so we'll see how that works, but that's what it looks like. Crouch heavy punch. Now this guy's got the most range of all the normals. As you can see here, he goes pretty far forward, but this means the old crouch heavy punch, the pizza slicer, is gone. And that move was basically busted, so it will be missed. Now in this clip, we can see some proper gameplay from Rashid, and lots of tornadoes being thrown. So the camera angle is not the best, but there's something very interesting about this, and that is specifically the eagle spike and what it does on block. Because, my friends, I hear all the complaints about E Honda, I hear all the complaints about Blanca, and it looks like we might have another one of those. So zooming in a bit on the drive gauge for you, and after the eagle spike, that does like 75/80% of a drive gauge worth of damage when you block that. On top of the fact that Rashid himself is pushed very far backwards on block, which means he might be some degree of safe against a lot of the cast. So it may very well be that we got a new move to hate, as Eagle Spike is looking pretty good here. Maybe the answer is just perfect parry it like it is for Honda, we don't know, but on this initial impression, it seems really good. This is Honda 2.0, except Honda can throw tornadoes now. So another very helpful, very fantastic bit of footage captured by Jared FGC is Rashid's drive rush. And it's interesting. So the range itself is actually very short, like Manon level is short, and she has basically the worst drive rush in the game because of how short it is, but the actual speed of the startup is quite fast. I don't know if it's quite DJ level or anything, but even though it's a relatively short amount of range traveled, the overall distance is covered very, very fast. So if we're looking for like raw drive rushes, perhaps one of his more ranged options here, like say crouch heavy punch as we went over earlier, Rashid being the silly character that he is in this game, you figure will be a character that will abuse raw drive rush, but it looks like you might have to have a very specific button in mind, perhaps one that helps you keep momentum, as many of the best drive rush buttons help you keep momentum while going forward. But regardless, maybe it doesn't have the most amount of range, but definitely looks very fast in terms of its actual startup. Seems like it'll be pretty decent overall. And there you have it. So just a few interesting little gameplay details for Rashid. He's not that far away. He launches on the 24th. And it looks like he's going to have a little something for everybody, especially if we like really stupid, really strong stuff, because he looks really strong. Of course, keep checking the channel. When Rashid launches, I'll have combos, guides, details, info, all that kind of stuff for you. And otherwise, well, that is about it for today's video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Street Fighter.